So in this video, we are going to look at building an overlash route using list data and creating the ACAD map from that overlash route. Let's get started. Actually, before I get started, if you are only interested in the export capabilities of FRM and how it looks, how a map will look like, or get a general idea of how a map will look like when it's imported into CAD, you need to skip ahead to 17 minutes where I cover that. So jumping right in, we've opened up our tool panel. We're going to select our Overlash tool and we're going to double click to add our first feature. And from here I'm going to pretty much repeat that process with the exception that I'm going to give one click now. Oh, whoops. That was a mistake. So I can show you how that can be fixed. We'll just move this pole off to the side and then delete it, I believe. Go. It's going to redraw that pathway that it automatically created. When you are working in FRM, you are going to be drawing the overlash, your new strand, your underground conduit as you're placing items. Underground, that would be when it's point to point. Aerial is always point to point. And then when you're drawing like around a cul-de-sac, for example, there's a special tool for that to connect two features, underground features, with a complex underground routing. But we pretty much do the same thing over and over here. So what's happening here is I draw the pole line. FRM is automatically building the amount of overlash as I draw. While I draw, it's automatically measuring between each pole. It is deciding and following my mouse. And if it's going to follow the mouse, what that means, on mobile, it's following your Bluetooth enabled stylus. And or when you touch the next spot to place your next pole, it's going to automatically rotate the previous pole that you just set, bearing towards that next pole. So it's automatically going to set your rotation. FRM is automatically setting your rotation. It's drawing your span for you. It's measuring the span. It's placing your footage, and it's placing the footage at the correct rotation set for drafting standards. In addition to that, which I believe I just touched on, is it's going to be creating the BOM. If you're using the Overlash tool, or excuse me, not the BOM, the base numbers linear footage for your overlash or new strand, or for your conduit. When you get into conduit, we get a lot more complicated. We start adding different conduits to pathways and sections. FRM is going to take and say, hey, here's this pathway. I've got 5 conduits in that pathway. So now this 100 foot for the BOM actually becomes 500 feet. Because in that 100 foot section, they have planned to place 5 2-inch conduits. So we obviously need 500 foot of conduit for that section. So it can get real deep into the planning, bidding, and BOM creation, depending on how you use it and if you decide to use that feature. That the pole is on the south side of the driveway here. So we'll go ahead and get that placed. I'm going to start drawing from the latest pole that we had. Click where I believe the pole is. Select the pole and continue. From this point on, I'm not really going to narrate anything. I'm just going to let the video go. Since this section of the video has me building the route and switching back and forth between base maps, deciding on where the pole is going to be, etc., based off the imagery here, I went ahead and sped it up ×2 to save us some time. So if you'd like to jump ahead, go ahead and move the video up to somewhere around 11 minutes. Then you can see me build a little bit of underground. Then I'll do an underground drop somewhere in there. And at the end of the video, I'll show you an example of how FRM collects information for a bid or BOM creation, and then explain a few other tidbits. So with that, I am going to be quiet. what I'm doing here is I'm just displaying how you could draw drops and what this tool does at the end of the video here. But it looks like this is not in the air. And I'm just going to make up the way we were going to run the drop here. Which probably we're going to go along the driveway and then come under it there where that propane tank was we seen. Whether they're really going to do it that way, I'm not sure. But it'll demonstrate the use of the tool pretty well. And there we go. The other thing is when you draw a drop, it will automatically geocode and pull back the municipality information or address information for it. And that's of course exportable and viewable inside of FRM. So the screen we're looking at is the feature route dashboard. This is where you can find a lot of information and do CSV reports on that information. You can sort these columns, you can filter them as you see me doing now. So if we put OL in the pathway type, then that's going to filter our list and it's going to give us the total down in your bottom right hand corner. So given that amount, if you were to put a fiber loop every 1,000 feet, you could figure there's probably 8,800 foot of 432 count fiber that's going to be needed for this project. So as soon as you get done desktoping it, you could pull that number with about 3 to 4 clicks. Going further, you can come down to the feature route summary. You can figure out how many of every type of feature there are. You have the polls list. There's an electronics list, which I don't have any electronics put in this. Then there's the drop list. So what these lists mean for you is your data available in real time at the moment your route is completed. Okay, so jumping ahead, now we are going to look at a import of this route. Now obviously if you've been watching any of the video before, you know I've added a lot of data here. In FRM I have drawn out the right-of-way and I've also drawn out a 432 count fiber, as well as I've went through and created all the profile numbers in order. So what we're doing is we're doing the import. We're taking the files that's been given from us from FRM and we're importing them into a template that was created based off my work. These templates can be set up to represent anybody else's work. Now we're going to go through and turn off some of the layers because those correspond to the tags and other things that we don't really care to have viewable right now. And what I mean is if you have a tag, it's tied to a GPS coordinate, that's going to come out in CAD. It was dropped by the filter. Then we're going to take a look at the measurement system or the measurement command that I have within AutoCAD. That's part of my system. I also give you automated AutoCAD commands that correspond with this. Now as you can see, the footage command can sometimes be about a foot off compared to what FRM has, but the other option is to have FRM set the distance and have that imported. So when you're drawing in FRM, you're fielding in FRM, you are drafting in CAD. You can do this from your phone. You can do it from the desktop. I drew in my right of way. I drew in my 432 count fiber. You can see it's all drawn in here. You can opt to not use my commands and have FRM bring in your footages and a footage block, and everything is rotated for you with one command. This right of way right here, I drew it on the right of way highlight layer in FRM, so it comes out in CAD on the right of way dash highlight layer. So if you're interested, reach out to me. Here's my contact information on the screen. I'd love to give you a live demonstration.